Thank you and good morning. So, you know my name already. I'm Distinguished Engineer in IBM and Chief Technology Officer for the Central Eastern Europe. So I'm responsible for driving the innovation and taking care about the technical community in IBM in 29 countries. But I'm happy to be Polish and located, unfortunately, not in Krakow, but in Warsaw. And I would like to talk to you today about blockchain. And I choose this topic for many reasons. So I started my technical career in '94, so years ago. And really, you know, during like last few years, till 2012, let's say, I really do most of my tasks. It was like business as usual. I got through my career more and more experience, doing interesting projects with clients. But in 2012, I got pregnant for the third time, and I spent.
Możemy jeszcze tylko znowu na 60 Hz, nie wiem dlaczego skoczyło.
Proszę bardzo. I will talk and you will do what you need to do. So, and because I got pregnant, I spent a little bit more time at home. And I started to deep dive a little bit into Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain, and it was extremely refreshing for myself. So I really, I kind of fell in love again, like years ago, maybe in integration or e-commerce, e-trend, and so. It's for me not only the business we are doing with the clients, but really kind of the unique technology, which in my opinion, but also IBM opinion, can reshape the whole digital economy. And blockchain is not only about cryptocurrency. So how many of you know the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain? The session was for beginners. Good. Yeah, so looking at the prices of the Bitcoin, I'm not surprised that more of us we want to know how to be part of this journey. Yeah, but Bitcoin is one of the applications, one of the public blockchain framework. We can use this also to set up our own peer-to-peer anonymous blockchain. But with the blockchain, we can do much more. We can digitalize any type of the assets. Yeah, we can put in this ledger, in this register, and track any type of the asset. Of course, it is easier to put their digital assets because we don't need to digitalize them, but also we can, digitalize physical objects, assets, using other technologies like, sensors, IoT, and so on, and then track them in a blockchain. So, yep. So, I have few slides, but mostly we will do the, online. So, I know we are lost. Oh no, we are here. So, today I would like to talk to you about the Hyperledger. First of all, in general, Hyperledger, what is it all about? And then we will try to look how you can model and deploy the blockchain network without really deep knowledge, of course with some coding skills. This is not for the business users. Still, we don't have that advanced tools like for the, BPM or other areas. And all of them, they are based on Hyperledger tools. So what is the Hyperledger? Have you heard about the Hyperledger as an organization? So I will... we will not use slides, maybe it's enough of slides. So, Hyperledger is an organization led by Linux Foundation, and right now it is the most active open source community. One of the most active, really. And under the Hyperledger, we have many, enterprise members, but also, developers across the world. And the organization is focused on making blockchain more standardized and ready for implementation, for adaptation across the market, across industries, not only in cryptocurrencies, but including all use cases, all different use cases. So, yeah, I feel somehow also honored that IBM is one of the founding members, but there are many of them. I think there's almost 200 members and enterprise members, and what we are doing, all together as a community under Hyperledger. So there are many projects under the Hyperledger. First of all, the blockchain frameworks, based on which you can build your blockchain, and all of them, they are a little bit different. So there is Indy, Fabric, Iroha, Southwlake, and Barrow. And today we will be using Hyperledger Fabric. Fabric and Southwlake, both of them, they are GA version 1, so they are really kind of ready for the even, production implementation in the enterprises. The others, they are still under incubation at the different levels. Very interesting one is Iroha. It's written in C, really smart concept, smart consensus algorithm. So if you want to deep dive into all of them, Fabric and Southwlake, they are ready to do the solutions and even implement them in production. But Iroha is also very interesting one. Southwlake is more for the IoT use cases, when we want to put in the blockchain transactions generated by different sensors or devices. So this framework has a little bit different specification, and it requires the Intel hardware for the consensus. So it's also one of the constraints we need to take into account. And Fabric is for mostly B2B use cases. So Fabric as a blockchain framework is a private blockchain. So we can manage privacy in this blockchain. We can set up the network when the participants will be known somehow. So they don't need to know everything about themselves, but they need somehow to register. This is kind of the separate topic, but not anonymous. And all of them, all those frameworks, they have smart contract capabilities. And today we will be, because under Hyperledger there are teams also working on some additional tools. So Explorer, to be able, to see what is in the blockchain in the more useful way with the GUI and so on, and Composer, and we will be using Composer today, the tool which we use to model, prototype, and test the blockchain network in a very short time. Personally, for the production or big implementation, after first step modeling using Composer, I use the scripts. But as a starting point, when you have the idea what to do, just to check, how it will work, I think it's a quite good and nice tool. So, any questions till now? Everything is clear. Okay, good. So just, to tell you, for the Hyperledger itself, till now, the Hyperledger is 2 years old. It will be 2 years old in December. And as IBM, we made more than 600 projects, and some of them in Poland. So last week, there were first votes of investors from one of the company on the Warsaw Stock Exchange recorded in the blockchain. The solution is held by Polish Securities Depository, KDPW, and they will do e-voting for the emittents, allowing, retail mass investors to vote for annual shareholders' general meetings without, the necessary participants on the meeting. So this is one, I think, in terms of the business implementation, quite interesting, but not the only one. So here's the Composer in general starting point, and Let me check if I have, no. So, of course, this is the open source. So we can have, the view for the Composer is not yet version 1. So it's still, the tool is still under incubation, development. Yeah, it's closer and closer to be GA. Yeah, it's better and better, and we have releases like almost every month, new. But I don't remember exactly, we are 0.7 probably right now, something. But it's changing quite fast. And I'm expecting the beginning of the next year, the project will leave the incubation and will be in the GA version. So of course you can have the access to the whole documentation, description, and the tool. And the goal of the Hyperledger Composer is really to help people with the business idea for the blockchain network, to model this, to implement the smart contract in the safe environment, to test this, to validate this, and even to deploy, let's say, prototyping environment. So it's mostly for the developers, maybe a little bit also for the architects, yeah, but it will help you to do this in the, let's say, fastest way without going very deep dive into each, the blockchain framework you would like to use, like Fabric or South of Lake, or the others. Right now, it works only with Hyperledger Fabric, but we expect that it should work with all the frameworks which are under the Hyperledger, which will be GA. So this is at least the expectation. So here is the tool, and I think that the best is really to check how it can work, how it can help. And within the Hyperledger Composer, we have nice tool in the cloud, and for the testing it's for free, and it's called the Playground. So we will we enter to the if you will Google the Hyperledger Composer Playground or Composer itself, it will lead you directly to the website. So here is the tool and the environment when you can define and test your blockchain, your idea. And what is really critical to understand, which blockchain, which idea in your mind is good to be built on blockchain, are those 2 or 3 concepts: the participants, the asset, and the transaction. Because, for many use cases, blockchain is not the best technology. It has a lot of limitation, a lot of constraints. It's not for everybody. So if really in our use case, we will not have the external participants. They can be even few of them, but we need to have, it can be many of them, of course, thousands, yeah? But at least few of them. If it is just internal or our solution, which can have many users, but users, not participants with full access to the ledger, maybe this technology is not the best one. So the participants are the key. Who will join our network? Who will have the same rights like everybody else? Yeah, with whom we will invite. So like this case with the Bitcoin, it's obvious. This is peer-to-peer blockchain, so every participant, every Bitcoin owner is a participant of the network, yeah? That there is a different role for the miners, of course, but here we are not using mining algorithms, proof of work, we are using different ones. And in each of the frameworks, there are also different algorithms. Most of them, they are based on the practical Byzantine fault-tolerant group, but really different. And some of them, like with Fabric, you can choose from few which algorithms. The distributed, decentralized is the best for your use case. So defining the participants, who will be in the solution, who will have the same rights, who will participate in the consensus is a key. Then the asset. So what we would like, the history of what we would like to track in the ledger. And it is also, important to not only to define the assets, but really the amount of the attributes we would like to keep in the ledger. Yeah, because for the smart contract, usually we need a little bit more than like in blockchain, just the participants and the value for one specific protocol. Here, because we have asset, and everything can be an asset it can be even access to something. It is also the asset with a value in the current economy. So we can also track this type of the virtual assets. So definition of the assets and the amount of the attributes we would like to keep is critical. And we should, as a best practice, keep really the minimal set of the attributes for each asset. So minimal from the requirements perspective for the smart contracts. Yeah, not too much. We can still integrate with other solutions. So blockchain as a network is like every other solution. We can integrate through APIs. And then transaction. So when we know the participants, we know the asset, we can start model the transaction. So how the transaction will look like? It will be basic exchange of the value, or maybe some more advanced rules, including the smart contracts. And where is the big value, in my opinion, in this tool? That first of all, there is a set of predefined blockchain templates with predefined participants, predefined asset, and predefined transaction definition, with the very easy interface for you to customize this. So we can choose, for example, we have here the animal tracking network. It can be animal tracking, it can be food tracking, drug tracking. But in this case, it's specified for the animal tracking. The bond network, so some financial assets. The car auction, but it is in general for the auction, because we can have all types of the assets in auction, not only cars. But this is for the, let's say, physical asset auctions. Digital property network. So anything what is digital, what we own, like licenses, for example. Great use case. Marbles, the interesting ones, let me go down. It's also, this is what the personal information, how we can manage the privacy in the internet, right now and in the future. It will make sense, or maybe, there will be no really open internet in the future. This is also on top of the blockchain discussion, this is another one. Will we have the open internet in the future, or it's like, we are at the beginning of the era when there will be no open internet. The trade network, so basic trade network where we can trade everything, like cryptocurrencies, but really everything. And in this case, this is life cycle network based on vehicles, cars, but it can be life cycle of any assets. When we would like to track the life cycle from the, origination to the, final destruction, let's say, of the asset. So we can choose right now one of them to see, what is the value coming from those templates. So which one should we choose? You need to vote. Any decisions? The last one, the vehicles, the life cycle. Yeah, before I play a little bit with the personal, can we back? Yep, yes. Okay, so for each of the template, you will have the set of, important configuration files. But, just starting from the very basic. So what are the participants, potential participants? And then, of course, for each of them, there will be, not touching. I don't know. For each of those, there will be scripts ready. So it's also easy to change the definition of the participants for us. If we don't want to have, I don't know, the manufacturer, or maybe we want to have different types of the manufacturer or suppliers included in this network, we can easily add them, looking at the scripts, how to do this for the specific one. Then we will have assets. So in this use case, not only vehicle is an asset, but also the order is an asset. So we will see also the differences between both of them. Then we have different transactions defined for the use case. So, and they are related to the life cycle of an asset. As you can see, so there is like scrap vehicle, yeah, update suspicion, scrap all vehicle by colors. So I'm not really familiar with the details of this network, but yeah, so. And the order itself, it's really about the changing the owner, because we are, it's about changing the owner or changing some of the characteristics of the asset, which can be changed, because maybe not all of them can be changed. The interesting production implementation of the similar network is Hyperledger startup. Have you heard about it? This is based on blockchain, on Fabric, the life cycle management of the global worldwide diamond market. So they are like 2 years on the market right now, but they cover more than 95% of the diamonds, since mining through the certification process and distribution and the sales points. So this is one of the implementation, and this is also good example, where those use cases can be applicable, like high value markets. I don't know, expensive wines, silver coins, different types of the assets where they have value. It's easier to cover them even at the very beginning in the global scale. And then we have here the events. And let's then check how the scripts look like. So they are really, easy for you to first of all edit and even copy paste if you want, but really edit here and then test or change anything. So here we have the participants. Here we have the yeah, we try to do this. I don't know. Let me. Maybe. But yeah, just. It's better right now. And of course it's better. So in those templates, those patterns, you will have the definition, of the all assets or participants, not touching. Yeah. Yeah, here we're back. And on top of this, as I said, those networks, blockchain networks, they are kind of the private. Private, I mean that the participants, they need somehow to be known in the network. They wouldn't be anonymous. It doesn't mean that everybody will see everything, because still we manage privacy. So we define here who can see what. And usually, in most cases, only those who participate in the transaction, they can see the transaction, even if they have the whole ledger. But we can manage this at the different, taking into account that we have different participants with different roles, and maybe some of them, they are like regulators. So they will only have the reading access. They cannot create new transactions. So this is also something we can manage here and define here in the more, let's say, friendly way, comparing to the fabric itself. Yeah. And yeah, here's some examples how to query the ledger. Also, I think the nice one. So starting from those templates, making even small customization, it's really easier to set up the network, to deploy it. I don't know if we have changed anything, but we can do the update. And then with the GUI interface, we can start to enter some, basic data. First of all, we can start to enter the participants with some ID. We can also, we can also do this template with some proposed values. I don't want to place the order. I just wanted to add the participants. But with this user interface, with the functionality to enter the basic information we need to start testing, it's, I think, extremely useful. So we can add participants, and then we can add assets, cars, in this case mostly, and then we can use also the tool to generate first transaction. Yeah, so like depending on what you will have in the network, what you would like to do with the what kind of the transaction, how you would like to manage privacy, you can test this in let's say, very basic skills. Because working with how many of you have already, set up some of the blockchain network, like Ethereum or Bitcoin or any others? Yeah. So it's really like, for me it's like back to very like C and Perl and, those first years of the Linux, let's say, or Unix, when we have different Unix distribution on the world. When Linux wasn't that popular, or even BSD more and other distributions. So it really required a lot of knowledge from the administration part to set up, deploy the network, all the participants and so on, and then the coding skills to build a smart contract, especially for the smart contract. And also modeling, it's not like modeling the databases for the relational databases, because we have some different constraints. We don't query this in the way we query the database, looking for the object. So some of the relationship between objects are, let's say, are forced by technology. That we have those data in transaction, in blocks, that we have the genesis, and we track the history of the asset in a different way, how we are doing this with the normal relational databases. So here, without this knowledge, it's easier to test the idea, the business idea. Not really, personally, I don't use this, when I'm really setting the network for the clients, like, for example, this one for e-voting. So then, of course, we switch to really scripts. Yeah, we need to be sure that everything is correct, all the network configuration and so on, because they are complex environment. But here, for the just basic idea, what to do, how to do, and even to prototype this and to reach out some, let's say, first investors or some first users to check if your idea is good enough. You have the tool which will help you, first of all, to build the network, but also with some user, very basic interface to look inside the ledger, to check what's going on, if your transaction, your smart contracts, they work correctly. On top of the patterns, the tools, there's also, the documentation and some online trainings for the specific task. And what next, or just last? So this is open source community. In the Composer, community, we have participants from, I think, about the 40 countries. So it's really, even if there are some enterprise members, it's really open for everybody. So feel free to look at the GitHub, check what's going on. The community has biweekly calls. They are set up in 2 different time zones to, to make sure that every participant from both sides of the globe, they will be able to join. Its community is very, very active. So for all, I will say, for all projects under development on Hyperledger, I really strongly encourage all of you who are interested to at least to look, to check what's going on, how those, first of all, Hyperledger blockchain framework are different from each other. Yeah, I do most of the project using the Fabric because it's for B2B, and IBM is mostly in the B2B business. We are doing project for businesses, but with blockchain, we're helping them right now, or even, to cooperate, in many cases, even with the competitors using blockchains, because they create a joint network with the competitors. But, there is more than Fabric itself. So Iroha is really very interesting one, and I'm personally fan of the Composer, because I hope it's a great tool for all the startups with the business idea in mind, but without deep understanding what blockchain is, how to use this, which framework to choose, but more focusing on the functional capabilities. So I think it's all from my side. Any questions? I can check the slides I prepare, but maybe those 2 links, but probably you will get the materials as a participant, so you will have the access, and it's really easy to find everything. So here is the main Composer site. Here is the link to the playground. It's for free, so it's really easy to start your journey with blockchain, and even to check how different are all those frameworks. Questions?